The outer rim of the Xerian sector was silent, almost too silent. The alien fleet patrolled in neat formations, their sleek obsidian hulls reflecting the pale light of a distant star. Commander Vyrek of the Althari Dominion leaned over the observation deck, eyes scanning the endless expanse of void. Sensors hummed softly, but nothing in the sector should have been here. At least, nothing unexpected. Then the signal appeared. A tiny blip on the sensors, moving with what seemed like sluggish, deliberate precision. At first, Vyrek dismissed it. A drift of space debris? A routine freighter? The fleet's AI agreed. Negligible mass. Low energy signature. No threat detected. Vyrek frowned. Something felt off. It wasn't just the blip's movement. It was the way the energy readings flickered ever so slightly, as if the object were masking its true nature. He tapped the console. Magnify the signature. Run a full diagnostic. The alien officers exchanged wary glances. Most of the fleet had encountered countless cargo ships drifting near contested sectors. Vyrek himself had commanded fleets that obliterated smugglers and rogue freighters with no more than a thought. Yet, despite the initial assessments, a creeping unease began to settle in his chest. "Commander," said Lieutenant Rail, her multifaceted eyes fixed on the display, "its mass is inconsistent with its apparent size. The energy emissions fluctuate in patterns I don't recognize. Could be a cloaking anomaly." "A cloaking anomaly?" Vyrek echoed, leaning closer. His claws hovered above the console, tense. "Or a new human technology. Run the classification." The fleet's AI whirred, churning through centuries of interstellar records, comparing hull types, energy readings, and propulsion signatures. The response was instantaneous, and terrifying in its simplicity. Unknown. Vyrek's antennas twitched. Unknown. There's no precedent for this design. None, Lieutenant Rail replied, her tone unusually tight. By all parameters, it appears civilian. Yet the energy levels, they're far above what a standard cargo vessel should output. Shield harmonics are irregular, almost aggressive in nature. Aggressive. The word echoed through the bridge. No cargo ship should ever register as aggressive on sensors. And yet, the blip, small and innocuous-looking, radiated a subtle but undeniable presence, a tension that made even the AI hesitate before classifying it. The fleet shifted closer, curiosity laced with caution. Each ship's sensors began to track the blip with microscopic precision, scanning every inch of its hull. The alien crew leaned into their instruments, measuring every pulse, every faint emission, trying to reconcile the contradiction. This was supposed to be a routine mission, a simple patrol. But as they observed, something in their collective instincts screamed that they were facing something they had never encountered before. "What do you see?" Vyrek demanded, his voice low. Lieutenant Rail's claws hovered over the display, trembling ever so slightly. It's impossible. Nothing in our databases matches this. Nothing that should exist can produce these readings. Vyrek exhaled slowly, trying to calm the storm inside him. Impossible is not a word we use lightly. Describe it. The hull appears standard, rectangular, minimal protrusions, standard cargo configuration. No visible weapons. Yet the energy density across the hull fluctuates. Deliberately. It's almost breathing. I've never seen a civilian vessel emit defensive signatures like this. Or offensive ones. A murmur rippled through the bridge. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Even the AI hesitated, running multiple simulations, each more pessimistic than the last. Virek stepped back and studied the tiny blip through the observation window. Out there, floating in the cold void, was a vessel that should have been harmless. Yet the data suggested otherwise. The human ships they had known from previous encounters were primitive at best, vulnerable, predictable, limited in scope. But this tiny craft radiated power, a quiet, deliberate strength that made the scales of dread tip heavily. "Run a historical comparison," Virek ordered. "Every known human craft, every engagement record. Compare it to this vessel's signature." The AI's response was almost immediate. "No matches found. This vessel exceeds all known human capabilities by a significant margin." Virek froze. The words burned into his mind. Exceeds all known human capabilities. That simple phrase carried implications too vast to comprehend. The so-called cargo ship, drifting before them, was unprecedented. Rail's antennae twitched nervously. "Commander, should we attempt contact?" Virek shook his head, a cold chill creeping through him. "Not yet. We don't know what we're dealing with. One wrong move, one misinterpretation." He trailed off. The bridge went silent, the weight of the unknown pressing down on every officer. Outside, the tiny ship continued its steady drift, oblivious to the scrutiny of an entire alien fleet. It was slow, almost vulnerable in appearance, but every instinct, every sensor reading screamed danger. A human vessel that should have been harmless had already made them feel like prey. And deep down, Virek knew that this was only the beginning. The alien fleet hovered tens of thousands of kilometers from the cargo ship, but every officer on the bridge of the flagship knew it might as well have been inches away. Commander Virek could feel the tension in the air, a weight heavier than the vacuum outside. His claws tapped rhythmically on the console, a futile attempt to steady the unease that had settled over the crew like a predator. Lieutenant Rail initiated the scan. She didn't use the standard sensors. This required the full-spectrum quantum resonators, devices reserved for only the most sensitive investigations. As the waves of energy pulsed toward the human vessel, the fleet waited, holding its collective breath. At first, the readings were ordinary. Hull integrity appeared stable, propulsion systems weak, and life support minimal. But then the scans penetrated deeper, beyond the external shell, into the vessel's core systems. That's when the lights on every console began to flash. "Commander," Rail whispered, though her voice sounded shaky even to her own ears. You should see this." Virek leaned over her console, antennae quivering slightly. The data spread across the display in streams of luminescent glyphs, each one representing levels of power, weaponry, and shield harmonics. And yet, the glyphs didn't make sense. The so-called cargo ship, small and unassuming in design, was bristling with advanced energy systems, weapons arrays, far beyond anything the Alt-Hari Dominion had ever catalogued, lined internal decks. The shields weren't just defensive. They were layered, interlocking fields capable of absorbing energy blasts that could obliterate entire cruisers. Even more alarming, the propulsion system was anomalous, slow and civilian on the surface, yet capable of sudden bursts of speed far exceeding any known threshold. Virek froze. His mind raced. "Are you saying this is a warship?" Rail hesitated. "It appears. Yes. Every parameter screams warship. But the exterior, Commander, it looks civilian. Minimal profile. No visible turrets, no hull-mounted cannons." The bridge erupted in murmurs, a low hum of fear and disbelief. Officers who had faced countless battles now stared in stunned silence at the tiny vessel drifting like a harmless freighter. Some clawed at their consoles, trying to disprove the readings, but the sensors were unrelenting. Every scan reinforced the same terrifying conclusion. They had been underestimating humans, yet again. The AI attempted to offer reassurances. Anomaly detected. Likelihood of offensive capability exceeding visual assessment. 97.4%. 97.4%? Virek growled, his voice low and dangerous. It should be 0. We've scanned every human vessel known to us. There is no precedent for this level of capability in a single ship. Rail's claws hovered over the console. Commander, it gets worse. There's more than just energy weapons. Internal systems suggest automated targeting arrays capable of analyzing multiple enemy fleets simultaneously. And life-form coordination, humans inside, seems calm, focused, efficient. The realization hit like a shockwave. Calm, focused humans were far worse than panicked or reactive ones. Virek's mind flashed to previous encounters. Human forces were resilient, unpredictable, and adaptable. This vessel, small and innocuous as it appeared, might combine stealth, raw firepower, and tactical intelligence in a way that no alien fleet had anticipated. "Rail," Virek said slowly, deliberately. "I want every deck scanned again. I don't care how many cycles it takes. I want to know what we're up against. I want a full structural analysis. And prepare for contingencies." The officer hesitated. "Contingencies, Commander?" Virek's antennae twitched. "We may have just stumbled onto a ship capable of destroying half our fleet before we can respond. Treat it as a maximum threat." Outside, the human ship drifted silently. There were no signs of alarm, no signs of weapon activation. The ship's surface was pristine, unmarked. Yet inside, systems hummed, shields aligned, weapons prepared, but dormant. It was a machine of war disguised as a civilian vessel, an enigma designed to deceive even the most advanced alien sensors. The scans continued, layer after layer, yet every new reading brought more dread. Every hidden compartment revealed more offensive potential, more shielding redundancy, more surprises. Virek's crew, trained to face alien threats and technological anomalies alike, began to feel their confidence eroding. Each officer realized the horrifying truth. If humans were capable of building even one ship like this, the Dominion might be catastrophically unprepared for what the galaxy was truly capable of. "Commander," Rail said finally, voice tight with unease. It's complete. The vessel is fully armed, shielded, and combat-ready. It's beautiful, in a terrifying way." Virek nodded slowly, staring out the observation viewport at the drifting ship. It looked harmless, even fragile, yet the data was irrefutable. One small human vessel, appearing as a simple freighter, had the potential to annihilate the majority of their fleet in minutes. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The realization settled like a weight. They were not merely observing a human vessel, they were witnessing the apex of human ingenuity, hidden under a veil of innocence. And the fleet, for all its size and strength, had no idea what it was about to face. The moment the full scan results were displayed across the flagship's holoscreens, an unnatural stillness gripped the bridge. Officers who had faced countless human incursions now stared in wide-eyed disbelief. Commander Virek, normally the epitome of composure, felt a cold pulse of fear snake through his body. Every instinct screamed that the situation had escalated far beyond a routine reconnaissance mission. Lieutenant Rail leaned over the console, her claws trembling slightly. "Commander, this isn't just a warship. It's a masterpiece of tactical engineering. The shields alone could withstand coordinated attacks from half our fleet. And the weapon arrays." She swallowed, unable to continue. Virek turned to the senior officers. Explain it to me. Slowly. Step by step. Rael exhaled, the whir of her internal sensors amplifying the tension in the room. The ship's offensive capability is extraordinary. Conventional energy weapons, yes, but layered with plasma projectors, rail-mounted kinetic cannons, and what appears to be a form of adaptive targeting that learns in real time. Its sensors can track multiple vectors simultaneously, every angle covered, every blind spot minimized. And its propulsion system. Virek raised an antenna. Tell me. Appears civilian on the outside. Slow, minimal emissions. But hidden within are bursts that could accelerate the vessel far beyond what our fastest interceptors can achieve. In other words, Rael's voice dropped to a whisper. If it decides to engage, it could strike, reposition, and vanish before we can respond. A murmur spread through the bridge. Officers exchanged fearful glances. Even the AI hesitated, running hypothetical scenarios. Each simulation ended with catastrophic results, the tiny human vessel emerging victorious against overwhelming odds. Every single time. Virek felt a knot form in his core. You're saying a single vessel could potentially destroy us? Rael's antennae twitched nervously. Not potentially. Definitely. Based on current assessments, yes. The room went silent. Even the usually monotone AI's voice sounded strained. Commander, probability of fleet survival against this vessel, 14.7%. 14.7%. The number etched itself into Virek's mind. It was absurd. Impossible. Yet the data didn't lie. The so-called cargo ship, small and unassuming, carried enough power, precision, and tactical intelligence to annihilate a significant portion of their fleet. Virek swallowed hard. He had commanded dozens of engagements against humans before, but always in predictable numbers, always against vessels they could anticipate. But this was beyond comprehension, beyond strategy, beyond prediction. It was a war machine disguised as a civilian ship, and it had revealed itself in the calmest, quietest way possible, by doing nothing. One officer, a young tactician named Jorel, broke the silence. "Commander, what do we do?" Virek turned slowly to face him. His eyes, usually sharp and analytical, now held a rare shadow of doubt. "Do," he repeated. "We survive. That's all. We need to prepare for every possible contingency. Shields raised. Weapons ready. Retreat vectors plotted. And," he paused, voice low, almost a growl, "we pray that they don't engage first." The bridge erupted into coordinated chaos. Officers moved with precision, but there was fear beneath the motions, a fear born of realization. Every scan they had taken in the past decades, every intelligence report about humans, every battle strategy suddenly felt inadequate. They had been underestimating humans, and now the full scope of that mistake was clear. Rael turned back to the display. "Commander, there's something else. I think they know we're watching. The ship's internal systems, subtle changes, shield modulation, power distribution. It's as if it's aware of us, testing us, probing our response." Virek's antennae twitched, a reflex of unease. "You mean it's assessing us? Even now?" "Yes." Rael's voice was steady despite the panic. "It's almost patient, deliberate. They're not panicking, not even slightly. They're preparing, waiting, watching." The enormity of it hit Virek. They weren't dealing with mindless automation or predictable tactics. Humans inside that ship were calm, efficient, and fully aware of the danger they represented to the Dominion fleet. Every move the aliens had made, every decision, was being silently evaluated by beings who had already mastered the art of war. Virek felt a cold certainty settle over him. The fleet's confidence, built over centuries of dominance, was crumbling. Every officer sensed it, an unspoken understanding that the humans were not only capable of overwhelming power, but also of exploiting the Dominion's fear and hesitation to deadly effect. He took a deep, steadying breath and spoke, his voice low but resolute. "We've misjudged them. Every human fleet, every single engagement. We have always underestimated them. Not anymore. From this moment on, we assume nothing. Every precaution, every strategy, every system. Double it. And then double it again." The bridge crew nodded, fear still lurking beneath their discipline. The AI hummed, analyzing, recalculating, but even it couldn't ignore the terrifying truth. The human vessel, small and seemingly simple, had just rewritten the rules of engagement for the Altari Dominion. Outside, the human ship continued its silent drift, undisturbed, almost serene. Its presence was a paradox, a tiny, harmless freighter in appearance, yet capable of unparalleled destruction. And in that calmness, Virek and his officers realized the horrifying reality. The humans had not revealed their full power. Not yet. And when they did, the Altari fleet might not survive the revelation. The bridge of the flagship thrummed with tension. Commander Virek paced, antennae twitching with restless urgency. Every console screamed warnings, yet no human weapons had fired. The so-called cargo ship continued its silent drift, a ghostly spectre of calm and contained power. And that calm, more than any weapon or shield, struck terror into the hearts of the Altari fleet. Lieutenant Rail approached Virek, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the shifting data streams. "Commander, we need a decision. The fleet is asking for orders." Virek stopped, staring out into the void. The distant human ship seemed almost insignificant, yet the data told a different story. Every scan, every simulation confirmed it. The vessel could annihilate the fleet in minutes if provoked, or perhaps even if ignored. He could feel the weight of every life aboard their ships pressing on him. "Orders," Virek echoed, his voice low. We prepare. Shields up, weapons ready, retreat vectors plotted. But the question isn't what we do, it's whether we survive if we make the wrong choice. Joral, the young tactician, stepped forward. "Commander, they haven't acted yet. If we retreat, we risk exposing our hesitation. If we engage, we risk annihilation." "Exactly," Virek said, his antennae twitching in agitation. "Every option is catastrophic. And yet, we must act." The fleet began to shift nervously in formation. Ships that once projected dominance now seemed vulnerable, almost fragile against the unseen threat. Even the AI's voice carried an undercurrent of unease. "Warning. Human vessel displays adaptive awareness. Probability of successful engagement if attacked, 12.3%. Virek let the number hang in the air, a chilling confirmation of their peril. "They're waiting," he muttered. "Watching, judging, testing us. And every moment we hesitate, we reveal our weakness." One of the senior officers, Captain Rethal, spoke up. "Commander, perhaps a show of force might compel them to reveal their intentions. We could fire warning volleys, demonstrate readiness." Virek shook his head slowly. "And if they respond? We've already seen what their capabilities are. One strike from that ship could cripple half our formation before we can even comprehend the attack." Rail's claws hovered over her console. "Commander, some of the fleet are already suggesting immediate retreat. They argue that survival, not confrontation, should be our priority. Retreat, Virek repeated, tasting the word. It felt bitter on his tongue. Retreat implies we admit weakness. But what else can we do? Engage and die? Or hide and pray? Perhaps there is a third choice. But if there is, I do not know it yet. Across the fleet, panic quietly spread. Ships shifted positions, smaller craft edging away from the human vessel with a cautious, almost fearful deference. Officers whispered among themselves, antennae flicking nervously. They had faced humans before, but never like this. Never a single vessel with such precision, such latent power, and such calculated patience. The AI tried to maintain order. Commander, recommend establishing communication. Attempt negotiation. Probability of peaceful resolution, 3.2%. Virek let out a low growl. 3%. That's negligible. But yes, attempt contact. We must understand their intentions before we make any irreversible decisions. But prepare for engagement regardless. I want every fleet commander on alert. Any sign of aggression, and we respond immediately. Rail nodded, issuing the commands across the fleet. The larger ships adjusted shields, smaller vessels aligned in defensive formations. Engines powered up, weapon systems hummed quietly, and sensor arrays intensified their focus on the human ship. Every officer knew that even a minor miscalculation could lead to catastrophe. Hours passed, though it felt like days. The human ship remained silent, motionless, almost taunting in its serenity. No transmissions, no energy spikes, nothing that indicated any awareness beyond the scans already detected. Yet the aliens felt it, an intuitive, unspoken understanding that they were being measured, evaluated, and perhaps even laughed at in some incomprehensible human way. Finally, Rail broke the silence. Commander, the fleet is divided. Some advocate immediate retreat. Others insist on readiness for confrontation. There is no consensus. Virek's eyes narrowed. He felt the weight of command pressing down on him. Division is death, he muttered. We cannot afford hesitation. We act together, or not at all. He tapped the console decisively. We maintain position. Shields at maximum. Weapons primed. Communication attempt initiated. Every ship ready to execute emergency retreat if provoked. And every officer, be prepared for the unthinkable. This is not a drill. The humans have changed the game, and we are only just realizing it. The bridge fell silent again, the weight of realization sinking deep. Outside, the human vessel drifted on, untouched, unmoving. It had not fired a shot, yet it had already forced an entire alien fleet into uncertainty, hesitation, and fear. Virek stared at the calm, harmless-looking ship and allowed himself a brief, grim thought. If they decide to act, not one of us may survive. And in that frozen moment, the alien commanders understood the truth of the humans' legend. They were not just unpredictable. They were not just resourceful. They were something else entirely. Something terrifying in its simplicity. Something that could kill entire fleets without lifting a finger. The alien fleet held its formation, yet every officer felt the subtle, gnawing fear that had settled deep into their bones. Commander Virek stood at the observation viewport, eyes fixed on the so-called cargo ship. It floated silently in the void, unassuming and fragile in appearance, yet the scans told a story of unimaginable power. Inside, the humans moved with deliberate precision. Not a single motion was wasted. Every crew member executed their tasks with calm efficiency. Weapon systems hummed quietly, shields adjusted seamlessly, and targeting arrays aligned with a mechanical perfection that the aliens could not comprehend. They did not panic. They did not hesitate. They did not need to. Virek felt a cold chill as he watched the data streams overlay the ship's interior. The humans' neural link systems allowed instantaneous coordination between crew members and weapons platforms. One operator's action triggered automated adjustments across multiple decks. A single thought could reconfigure shields, reposition weapons, and recalibrate sensors, all without the appearance of urgency. Lieutenant Rail's claws hovered over the console, trembling. "Commander, it's worse than we thought. They are aware of us, not in a reactive sense, but in a deliberate, anticipatory sense. They know our fleet, our tactics, our likely maneuvers." Virek's antennae twitched sharply. "You mean they're predicting us?" "Yes," Rail replied, her voice low, "and adjusting accordingly. Every system, every sensor, every weapon alignment. They are synchronizing as we observe. They are calm, but they are ready. More ready than any fleet we have ever faced." Across the bridge, the murmurs of officers rose in anxious whispers. No human fleet had ever been catalogued with such precision and efficiency. And yet, this single vessel, small, unarmed in appearance, was capable of outmatching an entire alien formation. Jor-El, the young tactician, spoke, voice trembling. "Commander, they aren't even aggressive yet. And still, I feel like we are already losing." Virek clenched his claws around the railing. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. The Alt-Hurry Dominion had fought humans before, had won battles, had catalogued every known tactic. But the humans before them now were something different. Not reckless, not desperate, not even visible in their threat. Yet the fleet had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable, so powerless. Rail tapped the console, bringing up a live overlay of the human ship's internal activity. The precision was staggering. Weapons systems aligned, but no beams were fired. Shields hummed, but no energy was discharged. Every deck was coordinated, every crew member fully aware, yet entirely composed. "They are beautiful in their efficiency," Rail whispered. "It's almost terrifying." Virek swallowed, his gaze fixed on the human vessel. For centuries, the Dominion had prided itself on control, on superiority, on anticipating every threat before it acted. And yet here was a single vessel that rendered all of that meaningless. The humans were calm, calculating, and utterly prepared. They were not only a warship, they were the apex of strategic mastery. The fleet shuddered as one of the AI subroutines projected a potential engagement scenario. The result was instant, devastating, and undeniable. Even if the Dominion fleet attacked at full strength, the human vessel could destroy a majority of ships in minutes before a single counterattack could land. The simulations terminated in failure every time. Virek exhaled, a slow, steadying breath. "So they wait," he said. "They are not reckless. They are not panicked. They wait. And they have already won the psychological battle. The rest is just mechanics." Rail's claws hovered over the console. "Commander, we cannot underestimate them. We cannot assume survival if provoked. And yet, they haven't attacked. They are teaching us a lesson, even now." The humans moved with quiet, understated confidence. No boastful displays, no aggressive maneuvers. Just readiness, preparedness, calm control of everything within their domain. And as Virek watched, the realization struck him like a plasma blast to the core. These humans were not merely warfighters. They were predators in their own right, masters of fear, strategy, and precision, wrapped in a deceptively ordinary exterior. Every officer on the bridge felt it. The terror of facing a power they could not comprehend, a calm intelligence capable of annihilating them all without ever seeming to move. The human ship remained still, almost passive, yet it dominated the battlefield through sheer mastery of systems, coordination, and strategic foresight. Virek's antennae twitched involuntarily. "Signal them," he said finally, voice heavy. "Attempt communication. But know this, if they choose to engage, we may not survive." Rail initiated the contact protocol. A ripple of hesitation moved through the fleet. No one dared hope, for hope had a cruel edge when faced with this level of superiority. The human ship, silent and serene, awaited the alien signal. Its crew continued their tasks, shields humming softly, weapons ready but restrained. It was calm. It was lethal. And it had already won, not with shots fired, not with explosions, but with the certainty of its presence. Virek leaned closer to the viewport, voice almost a whisper. "We are witnessing the full measure of humanity, and it terrifies me." Outside, the human ship drifted, utterly composed, its true power hidden beneath a veneer of simplicity. The aliens could only watch, frozen in a mix of awe and dread, knowing that one small, silent human vessel had already shattered their confidence and rewritten the rules of engagement for the galaxy. The realization settled deep in every mind aboard the fleet. The humans were not to be underestimated. Ever again. And in the silence of space, the humans waited, perfectly still, perfectly calm, perfectly ready.